What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday, and welcome back to episode 2 of Money Mondays, a live event series where we interview creators asking about how they're making money on LinkedIn and brands asking how they're spending money on LinkedIn. And today we are in for a treat because 2 weeks ago we interviewed someone from the creator side, Brandon, our kickoff event. And today we have Olivia Owens from Teachable on the brand side talking about one of the new revolutionary campaigns many are calling the campaign of the year on LinkedIn. So strap in. We have 30 minutes of action-packed content, and I'm going to bring to the stage Olivia. So Olivia, happy Monday. How are you doing today?
Happy Monday, AJ. Doing very well and happy to be here.
It's so exciting to have you on. I think you're someone who I consider a good friend at this point. I feel like we've done so much together, from speaking to LinkedIn creator campaigns to featuring you in Fast Company articles. So this is definitely something where I'm excited to dive into the campaign of the year. And for today, outside of this campaign, you talk a lot about income and impact on the creator side, as well as if you're on the brand or agency side, how to really build those relationships with creators. So there's so much to talk about today. And before we dive into the conversation, Olivia, I'd love to hear more where you're tuning in from. I'm in Austin, Texas today. I know you travel more than I do. And I'd love to hear from the audience where you're tuning in from. So we'll be monitoring the comments. Definitely add your comment. We'll pop it on the screen. And Olivia, where are you tuning in from today?
I am tuning in from Los Angeles after a few weeks in New York around the campaign launch, but happy to be back on the West Coast.
Amazing. I feel like I think I've taken 50 flights this year, which I thought was a lot. And then every time I chat with you, you're in a different city, state, country. I mean, you travel like crazy. I was also in New York for 3 weeks doing some speaking, conferences, brand meetups. So it's so nice to be back home in Austin. And some quick housekeeping items for all the listeners. So this event series, the whole focus was for it to be 30 minutes, really no more, no less, no BS or fluff. Ask questions in the comments, we'll pop it up. I see we have some folks here, Jesse saying hello from Berkeley. We have Lisa from Chicago. I see Tamika saying hello, Tara and Brenna. So we'll be popping up your questions, comments on screen. Also, if you can't make it or you have to leave early, we're recording this on our YouTube channel. And also we'll share early access to a new LinkedIn Chrome extension that we have from Creator Match. So Olivia, I feel like you can give the best intro possible. What do you do at Teachable? Outside of being a Forbes Under 30 alum, what do you do at Teachable?
Yes, so I joined the Teachable team about 2 years ago, and I lead creator partnerships and business development. So I get to work directly with creators who are on our platform and creators who want to get started on our platform to find mutually beneficial relationships. Teachable, for those of you who don't know, is a platform where you are able to monetize your expertise through digital products like courses, coaching, membership. And Teachable really tries to position itself as a business partner to creators. And so in my role, I get to find unique ways to add value to our creators, whether they're looking to grow their brand authority, whether they're looking for sponsorship relationships, whether they're looking to get on different stages. We are always trying to find unique ways to add value to our creators as they continue to grow and scale their businesses.
And for anybody who has worked with you, including myself, I feel like everybody can only say the nicest and best things possible. You truly care. Of course, you have brand deliverables, but you really care about the creator, building those deep relationships. And I feel like every conference that I'm at, I look at the speaker list and you are either emceeing, you're speaking, you're partnering. I mean, you're everywhere around the creator economy, and it's so cool to see. And a quick intro about myself. Hello, if I haven't met everybody here. My name is Eckstein. I'm the founder and CEO of Creator Match. At our core, we match brands with LinkedIn creators. If the name wasn't obvious, you can see some of the brands that we partnered with, including Teachable is a great example. We've also partnered with hundreds of creators for hundreds of sponsored content. So today, the main focus is talking about this revolutionary campaign. It was all over the platform on Monday, called the 9 to 5 Quitters campaign. So the first thing, Olivia, can you talk a little bit about Teachable and also how this campaign came into the mix? Because it's not your typical campaign, and also the messaging feels a bit different than a typical brand campaign.
Yeah, definitely. So, the ethos of this campaign dates all the way back to South by Southwest, which is actually where I first met AJ. And we did a creator event at South by, and our design team and branding content team had put together these posters with different sayings. One said, "I'd rather be creating." One said, "9 to 5 Quitters Club," and that seemed to strike a chord. And as our team kind of played around with the messaging, got feedback, specifically from AJ, really pushing like this is something that has a story behind it. This is something that is true both to the Teachable brand and true to the experience of creators. And so we decided to go further with this, dig deeper and figure out how we can amplify these stories and also bring light to the fact that like the stability of the 9 to 5 today isn't what it once used to be. And it's not about quitting your job by any means, but it's how are you setting yourself up for success and taking control of your own financial future and also making the impact that you desire to make in the world.
And for everybody wondering what Olivia was referring to when they had this imagery around, and shout out to Brett Deshevsky from Creator Economy NYC, there was this poster on the wall right here. And this was on the wall of the event. And then they also had these great hats at different events. And this was during a time where I had a 9 to 5 full-time job. And I was thinking about kind of investing in myself, which is probably the best investment you can make for anybody listening, whether it is quitting and making that full-time leap, or even like you said, changing the narrative of what a traditional 9 to 5 entails. And you can have a 5 to 9. You can have side hustles, especially today in this age. There's no better time to do it. And I saw that on the wall, and I chatted with Olivia, and I said, "Do you mind if I take this home?" And it literally hangs in my room to this day. And that was, I think, Olivia, what was that in maybe February, March for South by
Mm-hmm.
Southwest?
Yeah.
So that was months ago, almost a year ago at this point. And now seeing it come to life, and it's super special because I'm a creator in the campaign. I'll show you my sponsored post in a second, but also having Creator Match manage the LinkedIn creator side of this. So it's an especially really, really, really important campaign, I think, for everybody, changing the norms of a traditional campaign. And one thing that I think is so interesting, Olivia, is some of the copy and the creative. And I'm flashing it here for anybody who hasn't seen this. And also, I'm going to flash the website as well, 9to5quittersclub.com. Definitely pull it up on a new tab if you're on your screen or on your phone. And I'm just going to read some of these out. You know, the key to your escape with the escape button. Close one window, open another. Let's circle back never, which we just love, and permanently out of office. So where did all of this inspiration come from? I mean, the creative, it sells itself.
Yeah, we are very lucky to have an amazing design team at Teachable who took the concept that we put together, took the story that we really saw, and brought together something that I think really resonates. I think that there's a level of this that is aspirational. I think there is a level of this that also calls back to like the tropes of corporate culture that we all experience on a day-to-day perspective. And I think they nailed it in terms of how do we bring this all to life and how do we make it feel both like you can see yourself in it and also keep it fun and cheeky, which I think is exactly what you want to see when you are riding the subway.
And the other huge thing, and you mentioned Subway, is that this was not, we're talking a lot about LinkedIn, obviously, and again, I might be biased. We were building an entire, community and business around LinkedIn creators, brands, agencies, the whole 9 yards. But you didn't just choose LinkedIn, right? This was out of home ad placements on subways. And for any listeners who are in New York and you are on a subway, or maybe you're planning to take the subway, look for these ads on New York City subways, which is so cool to think about. But also there was newsletter, there was podcast. I was featured on a podcast with Teachable that will be coming out in the next few weeks about my 9 to 5 quitter journey. And there were a ton of other different channels. So on the brand side, for both brand marketers in the room, thinking about what channels to pursue, as well as if I'm a creator and I'm thinking about, okay, I create on LinkedIn as well as some other channels. How does a brand go about not only the campaign, but okay, we're going after this campaign. How do I choose the channel that's right for this campaign?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I sit on the kind of business development side versus the brand side. But I think there were a couple things that we wanted to do. I think we wanted to drive brand awareness and definitely saw the Subway as an opportunity to do that. Teachable is also a New York based company. And we have collaborated a ton with a community called Creator Economy NYC. And so we've spent the year investing in this geography of the creator economy, and it felt like an amazing celebration of that. I think we also see the rise of B2B creators and know that a lot of that space is happening on LinkedIn. So it was a no-brainer to give these creators the opportunity to tell their own story on LinkedIn through the lens of this campaign, which I think is what we really saw come to life and kind of take over as a wave on the platform, which was exciting to see. And I think that's what people want to see, right? Like if you're thinking about how do I do this? How do I approach this? How can I make this choice and leap for myself? It's so helpful to hear other people's stories. And I think another piece of this is once we're telling that story out loud, it gets rid of this gatekeeping sentiment, right? Like, you know that there's more that goes into it than just making a decision. And so in hearing different people tell their stories, some are going to resonate with you, some aren't, but like you can also see the diverse spectrum of stories, whether it was a layoff or whether it was something that they were working on for years and years and they finally made the leap, or they're still in their 9 to 5 and they want to stay that way. Like, I think we wanted to show all of the different ways that creators and people are choosing to structure and live their lives. And then I think with the podcast, that was very, very similar. Like, how do we find other real estate to tell these stories? And the newsletter was kind of the bringing together of all of it. Like, let's all meet in one place and tell these stories and connect and get resources and learn and share, which is core to the Teachable brand for sure. So there were a lot of different pieces that went into this. And I think our team got really excited about all the different ways that we could tell this story. And I think at the end of the day, I am always pushing to not center Teachable as the expert, but to center creators as the expert and leverage our powers to amplify their stories. And I think I'm proud to say that I think we hit the nail on the head.
And I love what you just said, where you said that you put the creator voice first, not Teachable. Teachable is a vehicle to help you achieve that 9 to 5 kind of quitter's dream or quitter's club. And I also thought that Bree had such a good point here, where it wasn't just a channel of, oh, let's go do out-of-home ads, but it was out-of-home targeted to people on the subway who are commuting to their 9 to 5 job and kind of contemplating, this commute is 3 hours from, lower Manhattan to whatever, Upper East Side, whatever it may be. And they're thinking and like, oh, wait, what is this club? Let me join it. But it also didn't just target 9 to 5 quitters to make that full leap, but you can have one step in, one step out and still do a bit of both. And we're seeing that as changing the traditional way we classify or define what a work norm is. So great call out, Bree. I wanted to ask you, Olivia, with all the channels that you were thinking about, why did you choose LinkedIn and why did you choose LinkedIn creators for this campaign?
Yeah, I think, again, there's something really interesting coming out of this B2B creator space. Creators who are, of course, building communities and audiences and monetizing those audiences. But I think these are creators that are also working with businesses. So whether that's through consulting services, we hired a creator to consult with us on this campaign on our paid media strategy. And I think that LinkedIn has become such a powerful intersection for the sharing of knowledge, for education, for growing your professional authority, and also like a space where creators can exist and thrive and grow. When I think traditionally LinkedIn has been the place for the 9 to 5er, I think it's shifting, and I think we got to play with that in this campaign.
And a question that I often get as creator match sources, I mean, hundreds of LinkedIn creators each week for a multitude of different campaigns. And then one of them, obviously, Creator Match was the partner on the LinkedIn side of this campaign, is if I'm a creator, right, what do brands look for? But also if I'm a brand, right? Similar to Teachable in a different industry. What should I look for? And as you're saying that, I'm going to pull up my screen and show a couple of the LinkedIn creatives that actually went live as you're kind of talking about sourcing.
Yeah, I think from a who's the right creator, are they already having this conversation in some way? Is it going to be a continuation of a conversation they've already started with this community, or is it pulling them outside of the realm of anything that they'd be talking about? If all of their content is about their corporate 9 to 5 and they haven't talked about their side hustle yet or anything like that, it may not make sense to leverage them for this campaign. So I think a continuation of a conversation was something that we were really eager about. I also think a big part of this is like, how can they help this story come to life? Like, is the creative that's going to go alongside of this going to help tell the powerful story? And I think even from some of the smaller creators, the way that they were able to tell the story from a creative perspective was as powerful as a larger creator who just naturally gets that reach. So I wouldn't say it was all about size in terms of the creators that we chose. It was really like, who's going to help us tell the strongest story at this point, and who's already leading the charge in this conversation.
And one of the cool things here you can see, I mean, for myself, obviously, I'm someone who is a full-time founder and I did make the full leap. But also we had creators in this campaign like Jade, who are incredible creators. And you can see ranked #1 female creator worldwide on LinkedIn. But also she still works at a corporate job and redefining again what that traditional work norm is. And what's so interesting is everybody had a different take, right? Mine was very focused. You can see my dog Cody, and it was the change of what I used to do versus now. And you can see here I'm at my desk with my dog on my lap versus before I was in, very buttoned up clothing, maybe a tie, a suit jacket. I think it was the 60th floor in New York and San Francisco, very different type of work. And then for Jade, talking about the ikigai and kind of what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, what you can get paid for. So another thing, Olivia, that I wanted to talk about is many are calling this the campaign of the year. And you might be thinking I'm biased because we were a part of this, both as a creator and creator match on the agency partner side. But you can see here on the left that, you guys were featured in, a magazine, Campaign US, talking about this amazing campaign. And the YouTube video as well. If you have not seen it, you guys have to go. And I'm going to shout out again, the link 9to5quittersclub.com. One of the coolest videos I've ever seen with animations and motion graphics. So what do you think enabled this campaign to be successful? And also, what are those things that you define success as when you're working with creators?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it struck a chord. I think this isn't necessarily a conversation that people were having out loud. I think a lot of it was happening behind closed doors. You were sharing kind of your anxieties or your fears. And I think this is a very emotional experience to be a creator that's very wrapped up in your identity. And it is a leap, a risk that you take to bet on yourself. And there's a lot of kind of mental gymnastics that you go through. And I think we said the quiet part out loud with this campaign. And I also think the piece that surprised me, but also excited me, is that people wanted to jump in and tell their own 9 to 5 quitter story. And it felt like they saw this campaign as permission to do so, in a way. And I also think the fact that there's nuance and there was space for nuance in this conversation, and whether that caused friction or not, whether the assumption was, oh, are you telling me to quit my job? And then you go a little deeper and you realize that's not actually what it's asking for. And then you realize that a lot of the things that you're feeling are actually being represented in the creative and the design and the conversations that are happening in the LinkedIn comments. So I think at the end of the day, we just struck a chord with something that's hyper relevant and top of mind for people as they're navigating their day to day. And then from the creator standpoint, I think we got out of the way and just gave them the ethos of the campaign, helped them understand what the club was all about, and then let them take that and keep it very core to themselves. We didn't want their perspective on an industry, a space. We wanted their personal story about what this meant to them. And I think that's what resonated.
And at the end of the day, on top of incredible creative, incredible stories, ethos, changing the narrative, sparking conversation, it still comes down to business performance. And I'm sure you've seen that meme where it's like, what's the goal of the campaign? You say, oh, it's brand awareness. And you say, well, no, what is it actually? You say, oh, well, it's clicks and conversions. And at the end of the day, it still has to drive, the needle of Teachable forward. So as this campaign, we're still, I don't want to say it's wrapped up. We had the kickoff and it's going, I believe, till November 11th, if I remember the date correctly. So we still have some time. We even have some more posts going live up until November 11th. So you'll see, and definitely be on the lookout on LinkedIn. You'll see a ton, especially on other channels. But when this comes back to you and the rest of the team on the brand side, what is that metric or metrics from a quantitative standpoint that gets Olivia and team to say this was a success?
Yeah, I think we were willing to take a swing on a brand awareness campaign like this. And I think through that lens, you're looking at views and impressions as a major metric. I think hearing people say, like, I feel like this was all over my feed. I feel like I couldn't open LinkedIn without seeing this. Like, that is a success, right? In terms of reach, the number of eyeballs we were able to get on this thing. But I also think the number of people that were able to get to engage with the podcast and listen to the episodes. I saw somebody say they listened to Leah's episode and left a 5-star review. Like, that is a win for us. We want to make sure that the content is high quality and drives you to want to leave feedback. And then I think the other piece also was, of course, email capture, right? So there's a newsletter attached to this. How many people can we get to the landing page? How many people can we get to subscribe to the newsletter and start to engage with the Teachable brand in a way that they didn't necessarily know Teachable was here for them in that way? And so I think we had a multi-pronged approach to this, but at the end of the day, the main thing we wanted to see was like, how many people could we get this in front of, and what's a conversation that we could strike and get going on the platform.
And we're almost nearing the end of, again, this was a rapid fire event. I wanted to make sure that we cut out the fluff and dive right into the insights, takeaways, and really pull back the curtain on this incredible campaign. I have one or two more questions for you, Olivia, but as I'm asking them, I'd love for the audience to drop any comments, any questions in the comments, and I'll pop them up, and we'll save about 5 minutes at the end for some Q&A. So last couple questions for you, Olivia. What are some unexpected insights or learnings that you've taken on looking at the performance of at least the first wave of this campaign?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I think I mentioned one already. Like, I wasn't anticipating the demand of people wanting to have the opportunity to tell their own 9-to-5 quitter story. So I think we're exploring different ways and opportunities to help that come to life. I also just, you never know, right? Like, you're in the meetings with all the different stakeholders and all the different teams, and you look at the creative so many different times and you're like, is this going to hit the mark? Is this going to resonate? And I think it was an overwhelmingly kind of exciting and validating experience for people to see themselves in what we created. And I think also hearing the actual stories from the creators as a part of the campaign and getting to know them on a deeper level just based on the content that they created to tell their vulnerable story. I don't think that I anticipated so many unique stories in that. And so it was really cool that this got to go so far and wide in that.
And I think one of the coolest things as well is, like you said, everybody has their own 9-to-5 quitter story in some way, shape, or form. And for myself, right, I graduated in the pandemic in 2020. Shout out to any COVID grads of 2020. And I was supposed to start a job in person in San Francisco, and that never came to fruition. We started virtually. And that's all I knew for 3 years, right? And that impacted me to start a podcast on the side and start creating content on LinkedIn and really being an advocate for the LinkedIn creator community. And that's my personal story. But I guarantee that nobody else has anything similar. And I'm not similar to them in their story. We just share that we have a unique story. So I see I'm getting a DM right now on LinkedIn, a question. I think it's a great way to end before we'll save about 1 or 2 questions for Q&A. What is one takeaway or one piece of advice that you would share with both the creator side of this campaign to other creators, as well as to other brands or agencies trying to do something similar and emulate this incredible campaign of the 9-to-5 Quitters Club. So starting with creator, and then we'll move into the brand/agency side of just one piece of advice or one takeaway.
Yes. So on the creator side, I think in talking to a lot of creators, it just is reiterated so often how lonely this feels. And so my advice would be find community, find connection, get with other people who are trying to do what you're doing, and find that support system and that accountability for yourself, but also for those who haven't jumped in yet and are on the sidelines, don't overthink what it takes to get into this game. I think that I often talk to creators who have been thinking about doing a course, and then they're thinking it needs to be a 12-hour course that dumps every single piece of information that they have in their brain. And that's simply not the case. I think people are interested in what's going to drive an outcome for me, what's going to relieve a pain point for me. And I think that can actually be done in smaller chunks so that you can get your feet wet and get a feel for it. So I would say community, and get started with the smallest first action that you can take on the creator side of things. On the brand side of things, I would say get out of the way as much as you possibly can, and empower creators to do what they do best, which is they know their audience better than you ever could, and they know how to storytell and engage people, and so give them the freedom and flexibility to be able to do that.
And I know a lot of creators are saying, yes, Olivia, thank you. We want more creative freedom, which is a huge thing that we encourage our brand partners to do. And we say, if you can't give any creative freedom, go to paid ads, right? If you want full freedom, go to paid ads. If you're working with creators, they know their audience best. Of course, you have to have guardrails. Of course, you should, and confirm you still approve the content before it went live. So nothing got out of the way that you didn't see. But there was very minimal feedback, and it was, okay, this is an incredible story from Jade or from Stacy or whoever it may be that really enabled the campaign to be successful. And we'll have one more question from the audience that I'll pull up. Before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up this slide. I know I promised everybody that we're sharing early access to our LinkedIn Chrome extension, one of the most powerful extensions to grow and monetize on the platform. And if you don't have time to scan this QR code, you can just go to the Google Chrome store and type in Creator Match, and this will come up. We have about 200 of the top creators and brands testing this. So the final question, Olivia, I'm not going to ask it. I'm going to let Bree ask this. It seemed like every Teachable employee posted about this campaign. You basically had your own influencers internally. How can more brands emulate this? And again, around the topic of more internal employee influencers.
Yeah, I think you have to empower them with the tools and resources they need. I think your team wants to engage in what you're doing and wants to get involved. They just oftentimes don't know how. Our branding content team showed up with LinkedIn banners that people could use, with copy that people could take and make their own, incentivizing people to engage. I think that's the beauty of LinkedIn as a platform. People go there to do business, and your team is also showing up in that space as well. But I think people often want to get engaged. They just don't know how. So providing them with the assets needed to get engaged.
And on the topic of assets, last thing, you even changed your LinkedIn, banner to the 9-to-5 Quitters Club. And I mean, everything, I think it was like email signatures and content. And there was just, you couldn't go on the platform without seeing something, and having that overwhelming feel is the goal, not just from a creator standpoint, but also from, if you have employees, why not leverage them to post about it? So Olivia, I know we are literally perfectly at time, 1 minute over, but I'll say that we are perfectly at time. Thank you so much again for really pulling back the curtain and uncovering the key takeaways from, I think, one of the coolest campaigns, if not the coolest campaign of the year. You are such a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure I'll see you very soon on stage or at the next event speaking at a conference. So thank you so much again for the time, and thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thanks, AJ.